Hey guys, welcome to Get Busy Watching. I'm your host, Honest Dan. Let's talk movies.
Si estas navidades nos toca la lotería, te pago el documental ese.
Eso sí que sería surrealista.
Luis, soy yo, Ramón, que me ha tocado la lotería.
Las HURDES.
¿Y vive alguien aquí?
Sí, unas 8.000 personas en 52 pueblos.
Empiezas a ver el mundo de otra manera.
Ya lo sé, Luis. Esta es tu gran oportunidad.
No, es la única oportunidad para esta gente.
So just a little heads up, guys. I am not familiar with anyone that worked on this project. Cast, crew, nothing. So I won't be going over their past work because I won't know what they are. But out of respect, I'm still going to list them off. The director is Salvador Simo, and the voice cast includes Jorge Uson, Fernando Ramos, Luis Enrique de Tomas, and Cyril Corral. All right, so I'm going to take a wild guess here and say that my trailer did not exactly explain what this movie was about, so we're going to dive into a quick history lesson on what this movie is supposed to be. Luis Buñuel was a legendary filmmaker from the 1920s to the 1970s, known for surreal films. He was apparently close friends with famed painter Salvador Dali, and if the film that I'm about to review is anything to go by, Buñuel's films were often compared to Dali's paintings. This is basically a biopic of when he created his first documentary, Las HURDES, Tierra Sin Pan. Alright, history lesson over. Let's talk about the movie itself. I like how Luis Buñuel is portrayed in the film. He's not this, genius, holier-than-thou, just almost Jesus-type character who has this way of thinking that's just above and beyond, ahead of his time, and it's up to the audience to catch up to his way of thinking. I really appreciate that this isn't the route that they take with this character. I mean, in retrospect, that sort of started and died with Forrest Gump. You can't really do that again and expect not to be compared to that. I know Man on the Moon did that, Bohemian Rhapsody kind of did that, and both of them kind of suffer for it in lieu of a more interesting real-world story. I like how Luis is portrayed with flaws. Like, he's difficult to work with, and I've only done a handful of research on him, not even a dollar store worth of research on the guy, but from what I understand, he was actually very difficult to work with, and this movie portrays that very well. Because, he will want to get shots of mountain goats, for example, just falling off a cliff to kind of illustrate what kind of environment this place is. So what he will do is he will shoot one of these mountain goats with a revolver that he carries around, and it'll be filmed as if this mountain goat was just naturally passing away and falling. And in another shot, he'll get another mountain goat, shoot that, and just push it off a cliff. This is actually in the documentary as far as I know. By God, this is the type of film that you could not get away with. I want to know, when did animal rights crop up and become a normal thing? I'm going to take a minute and research that really quick. All right, one Google search later, and the American Humane Society was founded in 1877. So, yeah, the Las HURDES would certainly have been around for that. I guess because it's a foreign film, the American Humane Society probably didn't reach out to places like Spain or Paris, where Luis Buñuel did most of his filming. But I still imagine that this is not a movie that would have flown even for its time. I imagine it was pretty controversial, even for its time. It certainly wouldn't be able to be made today. Just animal rights activists would be all over it, boycotts left and right, and probably for good reason. Even I was kind of uncomfortable watching this film from time to time, but I had to take it for what it was, and take it for, it was the time period. These rules and laws were probably not as regulated as heavily as they are today, and certainly, again, foreign film, different standards. In any case, I do like that he's shown
to have a lot of flaws. We see a man who's an artist, who believes in his work and believes in challenging worldviews, in challenging social norms. At least what art is supposed to be. You have a pretty lengthy intro scene where different artists are talking about, like, what is art meant to be? It's supposed to be, understood. Is it not meant to be understood? It's all subconscious. You get into a lot of philosophy that I actually really enjoyed listening to. And you see Buñuel, he's looking in on an audience watching one of his movies, and like half the crowd is just completely divided. You see that one half is saying that this is blasphemy, and you have the other half who's like saying, this is provocative, this is genius, I like that. And he's just like sitting there going, yup, that's what my work is supposed to be. And then he just walks away smoking a cigarette. I like that he's that kind of artist, and I enjoy that he is, at his core, a good man. But then once you get to Las Hordes, and then he starts showing his more ruthless side, you start to see, oh damn, this guy's kind of an asshole. This guy is kind of reckless. He's like a juggernaut. He's not going to let you get in his way. He's not going to let certain principles get in the way of making the movie that he wants to make. And this obviously affects his friendship with Ramon. Even his two other crewmen, don't really agree with him all the time. But like, there's a nice balance between that and Luis's humanity. Like, I actually really want to know if this happened. Like, did they kind of camp out in the middle of nowhere? Start eating food in front of some, really poor natives who are just kind of looking on them like like they've never seen delicious food like this? Did these filmmakers really just leave their food behind for these people to eat so they can go and film? I'm really curious if that happened, because that actually sounds really cool. The film also has a tendency to splice actual footage from the documentary into the animated film itself. I do like how some of those scenes look like they were recreated to a T. I wonder how accurate they are, because you have a scene where, they want to show like a chicken's head getting ripped off by a native. The scene starts off with Luis wanting Ramon to rip the head off, but he can't do it. Like, he's tugging on that head and it's just not coming off. And oh god, animal rights activists are going to hate this movie. But the point is that he can't do it, so he pays the guy that sold him the rooster to take it off. And actually, I love this joke where he's like, he said, where Ramon goes up to the guy and he's like, I'll give you $10. I don't know what the actual money was, but I'll give you $10 to rip the head off, to rip that thing's head off. And then the guy looks back and he's like, which one? He's like, I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the chicken. The guy was like genuinely like surprised. He was like, whoa, okay, I'm sorry. I totally thought you meant the person. That had me howling with laughter, and most of the theater too. So I was happy that bit of dark humor didn't go above everyone's head. Anyway, he goes up and he just rips that head right off. Like, damn, that was gruesome. What is this movie rated again? Okay, it's not rated, but let's just assume it's like, it's a hard PG-13. Like, this movie should have been rated R, just because like you do see the actual footage from the documentary of animals falling and plummeting, death-defying heights. So, and like I said, you see a chicken's head just get ripped right off its body. So I'm gonna say this should be an R rating, but it's treated like PG-13. So viewer discretion heavily advised. Okay, I feel like I'm making this movie sound like it's just all about animal cruelty. It's really not. The whole point of the movie is that Luis Buñuel sees this town, that is so poor, and that these people are struggling to get by. They get sick, and there's even a scene where this little girl gets so sick that she just lays down to die, like almost like like she's taking a nap, and it's so haunting to look at. And all of what we're seeing is supposed to be an illustration, is supposed to shine a light on this culture that is totally forgotten by mainstream, society. And, the animal cruelty is just kind of a symptom of what he's trying to illustrate. Because, there is another scene where he buys this donkey that is carrying like a wasp's nest. I forget what the story is behind that, but there's a reason for it. But like every so often, the hive will break and get destroyed, and it will like sting a donkey until it dies, and that's exactly what Luis forces to happen. Like he ties up a donkey, smashes the wasp's nest, and just like all those bees just sting this donkey, and it suffers as it dies, and Luis waits too long to put it out of its misery. So it's these things that you're supposed to understand. Luis is an asshole. This is definitely he is definitely a product of his time, and this film did have an intended purpose. It's not just about animal cruelty, although I can imagine that this is a pretty big deal for a lot of people. So don't go in getting triggered. Go in acknowledging that this was done for a reason, a very misguided reason, but the movie acknowledges this.
Para mí esto no era un juego, ¿sabes? Se supone que hemos venido aquí para cambiar las cosas, para ayudar a esta gente, no para andar jugando, ni haciéndonos el artista.
I also really enjoy the relationship between Luis and Ramon. It's clear that they've been friends for a very long time, and both are, struggling because Luis was kind of banned from filming in Paris because of his latest film. So now he wants to film in Spain. He was given this idea to do Las HURDES from one of his crewmen. So he goes to Ramon, just kind of catch up and blow off some steam. I like how they work off of each other, how they bounce off of each other. And I like how Ramon goes out of his way and says like, "Hey, I won the lottery, and I'm gonna keep to my promise and say and help finance your documentary." It's like, well, what about your wife? What about your daughters? I thought they needed help. And it's like Ramon's like, yeah, well, you know what? My wife would never forgive me if I didn't, keep to my promise. And then we cut to the next shot, and he's running away. His wife is like, you bastard, we need that. I love that shit. I love shit like that. This has a really fun sense of humor from time to time. So I do enjoy their relationship, and I do enjoy that Ramon is not afraid to tell Luis that, he's crossing lines. He does have a breaking point, but Luis does have an open mind to learning. He does get reined in from time to time, and he does acknowledge, okay, yeah, now I get it. It's kind of a character arc for Luis, though, so I don't want it to sound like it's a back and forth type of thing, but I do like that he's just not a straight-up monster. I would say if I had any problems with the movie, it'd be that there are certain dream sequences that come out of nowhere. Like, you have flashbacks to when Luis was a kid and how he was an artistic performer even back then. And, he had a troubled relationship with his father, who was also a photographer, which is where he got his passion from. But it's kind of wishy-washy on how we're supposed to react to it. Because on the one hand, it looks like his father's like this really stern, stoic kind of guy, but subtly proud of his son for being artistic. But then on another level, you see on another scene, you see him like running up to his father as an adult and going, I wanted you to be proud of me. And it's like, well, when was he not proud of you? I wasn't really sure how to take this. The scenes were not well directed in that regard. Also, there are some scenes that feel like some dream sequences that are kind of just trippy for the sake of being trippy, because animated films need to have that shoehorned in there. It's like, you'll probably see in the trailer, you see like giant elephants or like just with really long legs walking along the street, and it's just like, what does this have to do with anything? I legit don't understand that. And I wouldn't put it past this movie also. Luis Buñuel apparently was afraid of roosters. I don't know why, and the movie doesn't explain why. But it just loves to put that on full display that is there a chicken in the house? And he runs away from them. I don't know what this has to do with the narrative. It would have been fun to have that acknowledged maybe once or twice, but not throughout the entire movie. It just feels tacked on, like this is going to be part of his arc, getting over his fear of chickens or whatever, but it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't really mean a whole lot. So those would be my biggest problems with the movie. But overall, it's really good. It's definitely worth seeing. I don't know if you can find this in your local theaters. I had to go out of my way to see it, and it's only playing in one theater, and I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be anywhere else. But if you find it, if you see it in your local cinemas, I definitely recommend checking it out. Viewer discretion advised, obviously. Don't see it if you're going to get triggered from seeing, animal cruelty, because that will set you off. There's plenty of it in this movie, but there's context that you have to acknowledge. My honest rating for Buñuel in The Labyrinth of the Turtles is a strong 4 out of 5. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Hope to see you soon.